Hello. The purpose of this video is just to provide some video clips off of my SL2-S where I'm testing my 5 favorite 35mm lenses listed here. After the video clips, I will come back and say just a little bit more about why I like each of these 5 lenses.
We got the Leica Pre-Aspherical Summilux wide open. Summaron version 1 wide open. Summaron wide open. Ultron 1.7 infinity focused. Rolling forward. Wide open, of course. Zeiss 2.8 Biogon wide open. Leica Pre-Aspherical Summilux wide open. Stopping down. That's f2. Summicron version 1 wide open. 2.8 f4 5.6. This is the Summaron f2.8 4 5.6 f8. Interesting. Wide open 4 5.6. I do not have a hood on. See how easy it is. Oh yeah, pretty easy to make that go away with my hand. A hood would probably help right there. Alright, I'm back with the Summaron wide open with the Leica hood on. f4 5.6. I wanted to do this because I think of this lens as having really great flare control, especially for the era. I didn't see that, but I also didn't have the hood on earlier. So there it is with the hood wide open. Ultron wide open 1.7. Stopping down. Zeiss 2.8. Stopping down. Leica Pre-Aspherical Summilux. Stopping down. This is wide open. Now stopping down. Summicron version 1 wide open. 2.8 f2 2.8 and now stopping down 4 5.6 f8. Summaron wide open f4, 5, 6, f8. Ultron, wide open, cat taking a bath, stopping down. Zeiss 2.8 wide open, stopping down. Leica Pre-Aspherical Summilux, wide open, stopping down. Summaron version 1 wide open, 2.8, 4, stopping down. Summaron wide open, 4, 5, 6, f8. Ultron wide open, 1.7, stopping down. Zeiss 2.8 wide open, stopping down. Leica Pre-Aspherical Summilux wide open, stopping down. Sumicron version 1 wide open, 2.8, 4, wide open, 2.8, 4, 5, 6. Summaron wide open, 4, 5, 6, f8. Ultron wide open, 1.7, stopping down. Zeiss 2.8 wide open, stopping down. Summilux Infinity focused wide open. Now I'm going to stop it down. Sumicron Infinity focused wide open, stopping down. 2.8, 4, 5, 6. Alright, somebody's going to ask about the Summilux, so here we are wide open, kind of stopping down a little bit, right, it makes that flare go away. Let's try the hood. Alright, hood on, wide open. So there's hood on, hood off. Zeiss 2.8 wide open, stopping down. Okay, opening back up, pulling.
So very briefly, I'm going to try to summarize why I really like each of these lenses, starting with the Summilux. The Summilux is tiny, it is light, it has a nice tab focus, easy to use aperture ring, the ergonomics are great. It is fun to have a lens that has so much flexibility and options. The difference between 1.4 to f2 and then to 2.8 and then down, right? You get a lot of choice in what you want your image quality to be. 1.4 is unique. It is glowy. The periphery is soft. There's a lot of coma. It is not sharp. Maybe the center. Right, it is a flary glow bomb. And that can be really fun and different and creative. That f2 to 2.8, now things have sharpened up some. The background fall off is still more than most other lenses at a comparable setting. The out of focus areas have a quality to them, a signature that I really like. It doesn't always work, but it often does. The edges still stay a little bit unsharp. You got to stop it down more to f4, f5.6, f8 to really get sharp throughout. There's also the vignetting. It's a lot at 1.4, but actually by f2 and 2.8, there's almost none. So compared to other lenses at similar settings, it has the least amount of vignetting and most even light across the frame. The Summicron, again, is small, ergonomically a winner. It looks beautiful, a metal tab focus. I shoot it mostly at 2.8 and then stop down from there. It is sharp. It's not super sharp out at the edges at 2.8, but it is once you stop down more than that. But really it's the three-dimensional rendering where I see the 8 element standing out the most. It's right when you look at what's in focus, but then also sort of what's right and out of focus and front and behind it, and the way that that's drawn is really beautiful. F2 is risky. It can be unexpectedly flary. It's a little soft and glowy, but it can look really good. And the way that the bokeh has a little bit of a vintage quality to it, a little bit, I don't know if, right, there's a little bit of a ring and a little bit of like texture to it. But again, I usually stop down a little bit closer to 2.8, so I'm getting some of that vintage out of focus, but then also like a strong draw, a little sharper, a little more contrast. All right, the Summaron is basically looks just like the Summicron, but it's even lighter. I don't love it at 2.8. I mostly shoot it at 4, 5, 6, f8. At 2.8, the out of focus areas, especially backgrounds, it's sort of what I don't like about vintage lenses. But if I know I'm gonna stop down a little bit, and I'm going for a sharper 35mm look, the Summaron is a fantastic option. It has good contrast, good sharpness, evenness across the frame, and is a great value buy compared to its other Leica counterparts. You can also get the Summaron as an LTM mount if you're a Barnack shooter. The Ultron 1.7, right? I had the LTM version and it was inferior. It was not as sharp. Did not have the same clarity, wide open. So it is the M mount, a spherical version of the Ultron 1.7. And it is very even performer from 1.7 down. It's a very modern rendering, but without being like having too much like overcorrection for spherical aberration. It is it's almost like a FLE Summilux, or yeah, I was gonna say like, or maybe like the 35 Apo from Leica. Sort of sits in between those two lenses, maybe a little more like the FLE. But it is a deeply underrated lens that can be found at a great value, and some of that is because people don't love the ergonomics, but you can get a sticky focus tab that sticks onto it, and now all of a sudden it is fantastic. Ergonomically, it's a little bit bigger than my other tiny lenses, right? You might notice that all these lenses are tiny. So I mostly pair the Voigtlander with maybe like a Zeiss Icon or something where I don't mind a little more size or girth on the front of the lens. But it is a beautiful lens at 1.7 and f2 with a very modern rendering. Great contrast control. It's also the sharpest lens I have if I'm looking to shoot wide open and I want my edges to be sharp. It is sharper than the Zeiss. And then lastly is the 2.8 Zeiss Biogon. It is very small, again. It is sharp and contrasty and saturated, but really the reason I shoot this lens is when you shoot it wide open at 2.8, you do have some vignetting, and you also have like this tremendous three-dimensional pop, right? The Zeiss 3D pop. It's also a little bit longer than 35. It's closer to maybe a 37 or 38 millimeter lens. So that 2.8 or even at f4, it draws beautifully. Again, that kind of the three-dimensional pop and just the way it sort of draws things through space. It's a hard thing to put words on, but I do have some shots with this lens that just blow me away in terms of the sort of the depth and the pop. Yeah. All right, so that's a wrap. I hope you found some value out of this. Take care.